guys, it's Danny. Well, today it is cold and my nose is a little stuffy. Yeah, we got some rains recently, which is fairly odd, but I don't mind it. So first, excuse my voice, it might sound a little bit stuffier than usual, but also today I thought we would work with some jewel orchids. I need to do something about this little orchid, this mini terrarium, because it's kind of outgrown it. I've already removed many of them, put them in the bioherb. It is time for this one to go as well. And I was actually inspired by a horrible news story that I heard of or I read. I don't really remember how I know about it, maybe it was a video, which said somebody actually used betta fish in little bowls as wedding favors. And as a big betta fish lover myself, I have 4 of them. I have quite a few of them. I have to say, no, you should never give live animals, and that includes fish, as wedding favors. People don't generally know how to care for them, that's one. And second, what if they don't want this commitment? What's gonna happen with them? And especially with fish, you do need some time to prepare their homes, let it balance out. Anyway, there's a whole story. No, don't give fish as wedding favors. Oh no, I'm ringless. I forgot the ring on the nightstand and my fiance is sleeping. Speaking about weddings, right? Yeah, we're going ringless today just because I forgot it. So anyway, I was inspired by that to make a video about gifting plants as wedding favors, which is, again, not the best. If you can go with some, I don't know, little decoration, a little artsy stuff, you know, that's even better. Around here, we usually either give something sweet or it's a little sculpture or something like that. But I have been to a wedding that actually gave away a little succulent. The climate is so good for them, they can even grow outside. So that was fitting. And also, since everybody around here kind of knows how to care for succulents, I thought, well, plants and actually orchids as wedding favors can work, and they can be special, and they can be very, very, very low maintenance. And I have one which is very low maintenance. We're gonna talk about it. Mind you, if you decide to actually give away live plants and even orchids at your wedding, I would actually make a little tag, a little paper tag in which I would give some care tips. And we're gonna talk about them today as we're gonna pot this little orchid in a bowl, because I actually have a bowl around, and it's going to be the new home of my orchid. It's a very special orchid, this one. I would not put a phalaenopsis in this, but we're gonna talk more about jewel orchids and how they differ and how easy they are to care for. Anyway, enough with the long intro. Before we start, don't forget to give this video a like if you end up enjoying it, and hey, why not subscribe? I post multiple times a week. Actually, I post every day. With the shorts now, I do post something every single day, and it's completely free to watch. Alright, so with that said, let us start. Alright, so a few words on jewel orchids. Jewel orchids are perfect for terrariums because, generally speaking, they can and they do enjoy very high humidity. They also enjoy a moist soil. Since they are terrestrial orchids, they don't need special orchid mixes. They can actually be potted in a normal all-purpose soil, provided that it's not very heavy, it's not very clay. It has a little bit of aeration integrated, such as perlite or even small pieces of bark chips, but generally speaking, jewel orchids are very, very, very similar to many other houseplants. And just because they enjoy high humidity doesn't mean you have to keep them in a terrarium. Many people grow them in normal pots, just like their other houseplants. They are pretty intuitive for a person who never had orchids. So I did grow these orchids both in pots but also in terrariums. And this is one way to grow them. If you missed the video in which I put this together, I will link it to you down below if you like this little display. Well, after a lot of months, this orchid has outgrown it and it's time for it to come out. But I hope you can see inside here, yes, I do have a little bit of moss, but I also have a layer of, this is cocoa peat, and it was absolutely enough. This orchid does not create a big root system, actually. So it's absolutely suited for containers like this, which of course doesn't have drainage. And because it is so tolerant to high humidity around the root system, I didn't actually have rotting issues either. Now, I'm not saying you have to give this to strangers because that complicates things, but something like this can actually be easy to care for. That's one. And second, it's easy to take the plant out of this and put it in a normal pot, you know? But this looks nice on the table and it's not gonna dirty the table. It's not gonna be messy. So temporarily, this can work, but you can actually even make it work long term because this is just the type of plant which tolerates and enjoys the conditions. Right, so with those little words out of the way, let's just get started. And I'll also tell you a bit about what these orchids prefer in terms of temperature and light, because that's fun as well. They don't actually need much. Okay, so first off, I'm just going to remove the plant from the terrarium. You're gonna see it's not hard. It really doesn't have very big roots. Ta-da! There we are. That's the full extent of the root system, and it's okay. The orchid doesn't actually need more. Oh, I took away some of the moss as well, which I will put back. We're gonna talk about the moss as well. Okay, so this is my orchid. I'm just gonna remove whatever leaf doesn't look so good, which was only one. And I didn't tell you what type of orchid this is. We call them jewel orchids. This particular one is a Mycotis petola. It is one of the slower ones, which I personally like because I don't have time to continuously prune and rearrange orchids. It's not necessarily the most tolerant one. The one that I would recommend if you do want to go ahead and do something like this is the more common, actually, Laudissia discolor. This one though, if you're lucky enough to have it, to find it, yeah, why not? If you just want to keep it for your own home, that's even better. But generally speaking, all of these jewel orchids require the same care. And these requirements are super easy to meet in a home. First of all, they enjoy intermediate to warm temperatures, more on the warm side. So if you are comfortable in your home, most probably your orchid will be as well. They really don't like cold. I would not keep them in cold conditions. I would also not put them in heat. Whatever you have in your home, I think will do perfect for these guys. But keep in mind, this is just me generalizing. You might have some special preferences for your home, which might not go with these guys. But if you have between 20 degrees Celsius to even 30 degrees Celsius, these orchids will be just fine, generally speaking. As far as light is concerned, things are getting even better. They don't like bright light. They actually thrive in pretty low light conditions. I've had these orchids respond pretty badly to strong light. So no direct sunshine, particularly if you're lower, closer to the equator. They might actually respond well if you're closer to the north or to the south of the earth. I don't really know. I'm gonna tell you that here in my subtropical region, they really hate the sun. So what I do is keep them either pretty far away from the window in moderate intermediate light or grow lights. They actually grow very well to grow lights. Just make sure they're not very close to the grow light. I would even go ahead and say that they can take less light than a Phalaenopsis. And of course, with these plants, blooming is not what you're looking for. So even if these orchids will not bloom all that readily for you, what you want is the foliage, I would say, right? Particularly with this one. When it comes to soil, as I was saying, you can use a multitude of things. What I have here is a combination of cocoa peat and bark, but you can also use all-purpose soils, which I already have prepared, and I want to use the soil because I'm currently storing it and it's just gonna go bad at some point. It's gonna get infected by that fungus, you know? So I'm storing it very tightly. I just wanna use it up. But just so you know, sphagnum moss combined with bark, that one goes as well. Cocoa peat and bark goes. It is a terrestrial orchid, but it doesn't grow in heavy soils. So whatever combination you can come up with that can retain quite a bit of water, but it's also a little bit airy at the same time, should work great. So I was saying, I'm going to be using a combination of cocoa peat, all-purpose soil, and perlite. That looks like this. Now, one thing about their care, which I want to address, I didn't think it was possible, was fertilizer. They're now very, very, very low feeders. And let me show you something funny in the Biorb, because that one is a bit of a closed system and it's self-watering. Ever since I made that Biorb, I had to water it twice, something like that, and I was afraid to use too much fertilizer. I actually almost didn't use any fertilizer at all. And at some point, these orchids started to grow very, very discolored. It was very clear to me that a deficiency was taking place, only a few months, like 4 to 5 months after I set it up. So what I did was I spot fertilized them. Because the Biorb already had quite a bit of water in its reservoir, I only put water around the orchids, water with fertilizer. And in no time, they started to grow green again. So when it comes to fertilizer, don't forget about it. These orchids like feeding, just like any other orchid, but this one in particular, because it does not have storage devices, it doesn't store that nutrient, and in no time, it will show you deficiencies faster than epiphytic orchids. And it's just something I didn't know and I discovered. So treat it just like a houseplant, give it fertilizer just like another houseplant, because it will start to show deficiency pretty soon and it doesn't look good. Now, should you go for a pot with drainage or something like this? It doesn't really matter, to be fully honest, because these orchids really do enjoy their moisture. They can actually grow without any hitch in quite a moist soil. As you can see in the biorb, it is a self-watering system. If I make sure to fertilize them, they thrive. I've had them in this mini greenhouse. They thrived, so you don't really need drainage if you know what you're doing. But if you don't really know, put it in a pot with drainage, because that's the safest bet until you get to know it. But of course, the choice belongs to you. As you can see, I'm potting it in, let's call it a mini terrarium bowl without any type of drainage, also without any type of drainage layers. I usually don't use drainage layers. I don't think they're necessary, and particularly in something as small as this with an open top, which does permit ventilation and evaporation, it's really not needed. Now, as you can see, this will not be a closed system, and that is perfectly fine. Because when it comes to humidity, yes, these plants really enjoy higher humidity, but they can grow pretty well without it as well. They do tend to grow faster the higher the humidity, that is for sure. But if you don't want these orchids to grow super fast, you can definitely keep them in your ambiental humidity. As long as you make sure they're properly watered, they will actually be just fine. Okay, I will have to resort to some tools to direct this soil to the root system. Now, if you're thinking, that plant looks like it can be propagated through cutting of the stem. Oh, my plant room lights are on. It means it's 7 o'clock. Okay, let me adjust the camera. All right. Okay, so going back, can you propagate this plant through stem cuttings? Absolutely. What you need to do is take a cutting below a node. I'll give you a close-up of a node right now. On this plant, you will see some roots have already started to grow there. And this is because this orchid was growing in higher humidity. Now those roots, they won't develop if they're not in very high humidity conditions, but that's okay. The important part is to cut below one of those nodes, which the orchid grows roots from. Then you can put the cutting in water and watch as the roots grow. And when you have a few roots of 3-4 centimeters long, maybe 2 inches long, then you can remove the orchid from the water and pot it in soil. You can definitely directly place stems in soil, but if you're like me and would like to see the roots starting to grow, and also you would like to make sure that the stem isn't rotting, go for water. Another bonus of water propagation is that when you cut the stem, the orchid has a way to absorb water. If it doesn't have any roots, it will actually absorb the water through that stem. If you plunk it directly into the soil, it will start to dehydrate first before it produces roots, and that can be a little bit more risky. I would just go with water propagation with this one. And yes, you can propagate these orchids super fast and very efficient in water. I'm almost done with my soil, but I think we have enough. One more thing that I will do, because I can actually control watering a little bit better here and I will water more frequently, is add slow release fertilizer so that I make sure that this orchid does actually receive some food. I should have placed it in the soil a little earlier, but it's okay. I'm just gonna work it in with this bamboo skewer, which is, no joke, my favorite gardening tool. So many things you can do with a bamboo skewer. I actually have a video on it. Check it down below. It's a fun video. And at least when it comes to orchid growing, you can find so many uses for bamboo skewers. Anyway, enough fiddling around. The orchid is done. Ta-da! The only thing left to do is to water it. And I need a little watering can to do so. Now, watering will be a little bit more difficult, let's say, in this mini terrarium, mini glass globe, but not impossible. You can go ahead and get yourself a wash bottle, I think it's called, or a pipette, or a turkey baster, anything. Or if you have a tinier watering can with a thin and long nozzle, I think it's called, maybe not. I was amused. then you can get away with this. If you hit the foliage, that's okay. Oh my gosh, I know. You can actually put water on this orchid and nothing bad will happen. But what I would do is just go ahead and try to place water around the orchid, making sure that you don't put too much water. But it's okay if you do, because you can just tilt this bowl and everything will drain out. Okay, that is enough. My potting soil was bone dry, so this water, even though it looked a little bit too much, it's not actually too much. It's gonna moisten everything up. And there we have it. We're all done. All right, now if you want to dress this up, put a little bit of decorative moss on top, you can definitely do so as long as it's not super wet like sphagnum moss. If you have some tillandsia, aka Spanish moss, that can look very nice there. Again, if you have a way to water it, I'm just gonna let it be, although you might have seen I did have quite a nice moss here. I'm not gonna put that moss, let's address the moss really fast. I don't know what type of moss it is. I found it at a flower shop, but this moss does not live in lower humidity, and actually in lower than 100% humidity. So this is how I keep it, in this little food container, and it's thriving. But if I put it in, even in the bioorb, it did not thrive. And in the bioorb I have anywhere from 95 to 99% humidity. It did not thrive, it just fizzled out. So this will be for a different project, but this is why I'm not going to reuse it. It's just not gonna make it here. So I'm just gonna collect whatever I have here and reuse it in a different project. But definitely, this is up to you what you wanna do. You don't have to grow this orchid like this. Why do I still have gloves? But if you find this decorative and you just have some pieces of furniture that you're super scared you're gonna ruin with plants and you never wanna have plants because of your furniture, hey, why not try something like this? It's really pretty and water will never ever get out of it unless it cracks. But hopefully that will not happen. You can just water it at the same time. If you want to use normal pots, you can go ahead and use it. And when it comes to the party favor part, it was more like a joke, but I think this is perfectly fine to offer to people as long as you put a little tag with all of these care tips that I told you. You can even add a line there that says, please pot this orchid in a normal pot, you know, if you don't trust people with something like this. But for presentation, it can definitely go through the night like this, or even for a few days, and it will be fine. But yeah, it's a judgment call. If you feel like your friends are planty people or they're able and capable to take care of a plant, do this. If not, better stick to inanimate objects. I think those are the best thing you can give away at a wedding as a favor. But if you just want to have these orchids in your home like this, you can definitely do so. If you cannot find the Macoda spatola, which might not be in stock all the time, definitely the Ludicia appears to be a lot more available for sale. Makes sense, it grows much faster than this. Also, this one can be slightly pricier, but don't imagine very expensive. But you know, it's a really pretty orchid. So yeah, up to you. You can do this setup for any type of jewel orchid, and that's about it for today. Thank you guys so much for watching and for hanging out with me. But with that said, I hope you have a great day. Subscribe to my channel for more orchid videos, tutorials, experiments, updates, and other fun orchid subjects. If you wish to support the channel, do consider becoming a member or visit the merch store linked down below in the description. You can also follow me on Instagram and Facebook. It's always nice to stay in touch there as well. And I'll see you next time. Bye!